Here it is, October 3rd, and we're sitting in the Roseman Community Services District main headquarters on 35th Street in Roseman. And we're interviewing one of the directors who's been a director for 19 years, but also has brought over 30 years, I think he told me 37 years, in this industry with Los Angeles County. So I have the pleasure of addressing Mr. Greg Wood this morning. And Greg, let's talk a little bit about the past and what the agency has gone through during your last 4 years. Now, we've had some special things that you know about, and that is the ramp down. Now, could you explain what that did to the industry?
Well, the ramp down is, in a nutshell, for those of you who aren't aware, is that we live in an adjudicated basin. Back in 1999, the carrot farmers and farming conglomerates sued all the water purveyors in the Antelope Valley for water rights. It was a long lawsuit, and it was finally settled by adjudicating the basin. So in other words, they wanted the court order was to restrict the pumping. And so traditionally, the Roseman Community Service District would pump about 3,000 acre feet of water to serve the community's needs. The court says, well, because of the adjudication at the end of the ramp down, which has occurred, you will only be able to pump 404 acre feet of water. So in 2018, when I was elected to the board, I realized that we had a real dilemma. We were going to have to purchase water from AVEC, which is not a reliable water source, and it's gotten less reliable as the drought has continued on. So we needed to find perpetuity water rights in the valley to meet the community's needs, not just for today, but for decades into the future. We made that a priority, and along with our fellow board members, we went out and purchased enough water rights to where we can sit there and be completely independent and don't have to rely on water from AVEC or anybody else. We can pump it out of our own wells. But the beauty of this is that we have water for today, and we have water for today's current customers for decades into the future. And that was the biggest part of the ramp down, and it was very stressful because we knew the impact it was going to be on this community, and we had to hit the ground running and not take our foot off the gas the whole time until we got those water rights.
Now, the water rights, I suppose they came from farmers around the area, or landholders around the area that had.
Yes.
And they're in perpetuity means forever. They're not carryover water or
Correct.
1 year water or any water like that.
Right. The water rights we bought is that in the adjudication, every landowner, every municipality was given a certain amount of water rights to pump due to the adjudication. And so farmers out there, they might have 200 acre feet of water. They figure they don't need that much anymore, so they sell what they don't need. Or they might sell all their water rights because they're done farming up here for their crops. So we went out and we found the water that we needed to purchase to meet our needs.
Well, that's good. And I can see where the average person in Roseman who turns the faucet on in the morning doesn't think about that.
No, they don't. But you know what? That's the thing is that's what this board is here for. So you flush your toilet, you turn on your faucet, everything works. That means we're doing our job. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, when you have to start thinking about it or worrying about it, that means we're not doing our job.
Right. Now this board has had, I would call, a harmonious term.
Yes.
I've covered the Roseman Community Service District for a number of years and written a number of different stories from different points of view with different managers and different board members. And my description of the board this term has been harmonious. Excuse me. And because of that, I think the people in town have maybe not paid too much attention like they used to. You remember we used to have boardrooms filled with people, angry people, shouting, screaming about this, that, or whatever. We haven't had that.
No.
And now you have a long time in this kind of an industry. So what do you attribute that to, this peace in the valley?
I think the fact that we have a board that we're all on the same page. We realize the importance of working together for the good of the community. We work for this community. That's something that I have never forgotten as a board member, is that I work for you, the community. I have to take care of your needs and make sure that, you know, you don't have any issues with your water, any issues with your sewers, any issues with the infrastructure, that we have capable crews to take care of items when they need to be repaired or be replaced. We have good board members right now that are passionate about this community. And I think that's the biggest reason why that nobody on this board has an agenda. We're all here for one reason. That's to do what's best for this community.
Now, the water rates have increased a little bit, but you have done a 5-year plan and tried to project why the rates have to keep pace with the economy.
Well, you know, water rates is always a sore subject, and it's always been a source of some of the full boardrooms that we've talked about in the past, that nobody likes to increase rates, including me. I'm a ratepayer too. I live in this community. I've lived in this community for almost 31 years. So I pay the same water bills that everybody else pays. And I don't like raising rates. It's the last thing I want to do. But we have to look at things that, you know, we have to look at the cost of water, the cost of pumping, the cost of maintenance. The sewers have to be maintained. The water lines have to be maintained and be replaced. Pumps have to be pulled out and rebuilt. There's a lot of costs, and just like anything else, as wages go up, parts go up, replacement costs go up. All of these things are projected, and we have to look at the rates to look into 5 years in the future as to, okay, these things, and it's part of our maintenance program that we have here as well, is that we can look at stuff and say, hey, you know what, we've got maybe another 2 years left in this pump and we're gonna have to replace it. Well, that's a couple $1 million. Or we might have our Vector truck. It's getting, you know, near the end of its life, and we're going to have to replace that. That's $400,000. Or you got your backhoes, and you got your other equipment, your service trucks and things. All of this stuff costs money, and we have to put that into the rates to project when we have to replace, do repairs, and you know, there's a lot of factors that go into it, but we take all of these into account, and we never raise our rates a penny higher than they need to be. We try to keep them as low as we can, and I'm right there with all of you. I don't like rate increases, but they are a necessity to run this agency.
And I noticed that you got outside consultants experts in projecting what the costs are going to be 5 years out, and you asked them to look at Roseman, and then you basically with some adjustment, followed what they have recommended.
Yes, we do. We always bring in an outside consultant to help do our projection, our 5-year plans, and we use their recommendations of what they've done through all their studies, looking at all of our records, looking at all of our maintenance records, and looking at our system. And they're usually pretty darn accurate when it comes down to saying this is what you're looking at over the next 5 years.
Now, recently has come up in the board meetings, looking more closely at the sewer system, an audit of the sewer system, which I can't remember ever having done before, but you being in that industry, you supported it at the last meeting, and could you explain what that's going to be, a sewer audit and projection?
Well, make a long story short, a lot of people look at sewers as out of sight, out of mind. And the sewers are probably one of the most essential services that this community has, health-wise. And yes, sewer lines are underground, but they require a tremendous amount of maintenance. And if they don't receive their maintenance, then you can have what they call SSOs, which is a sewer system overflow, which is a danger to the community. We've never had one that has been impacted the community. Our sewer system, it's getting older, and we need to have someone come in and take a look at how we're doing our job top to bottom. It's just like having an accounting firm come in and double check all your figures and look at your books to make sure you're doing everything right. This firm is no different. We want someone to take a hard look at us and tell us what we're doing right and what we can do better. Because it is your money that's in the ground. And it's our way of protecting your assets and to make sure that we don't have to replace them prematurely or have damage due to them because of improper maintenance, or maybe maintenance not being done enough or being done too much. So it's asking another set of professional eyes to look at our system and give us a report card. And that's what we're hoping to get out of this. And it's, in my opinion, with 37 years and working in sewers and water reclamation, it's something that is money well spent.
Mm-hmm. Well, also, you must have a good guardian angel, because you're getting to build now a state-of-the-art water reclamation plant, which in the whole state, or in the whole nation actually, is outstanding. Now, it is a year behind schedule, but remember, it was a COVID year, and who could predict what COVID would do to us? But explain to me a little bit about the reclamation plant now, which is days, if not hours, away from actually producing over 1,000 acre-feet of water, I think.
Right, it's closer. Our projection is about 1,300 acre-feet of water.
Good.
It could be 1,100, but we're kind of going on the high side right now, about 1,300. And that's my passion. I love this plant. Coming from water reclamation background, it was always frustrating working for Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts and being in an industry that nobody liked. Everybody threw cold water on any idea of using recycled or reclaimed water. And the thing is that it's heavily regulated under Title 22 regulations. And before, the only accepted practice of recycled water was to treat it to a tertiary level, which is drinking water standards. And here's a funny thing I like to tell people, is that drinking water is tested for about 90 different elements. And your reclaimed water under Title 22 is approximately about 140 different elements. So it goes under, reclaimed water is more stringently tested than drinking water. So it's safe, but it's only can be used on green areas, green belts, athletic fields, golf courses, medians, things of this nature, or to irrigate animal crops like alfalfa and things of that nature. But it's so heavily regulated, plus you have the millions and millions of dollars of, everybody's heard the term purple pipe, because you have to pump it to a destination. You want to pump it to a ballpark or the Roseman High School football field, you got to run purple pipe. You got to invest in reclaimed water pumps. Then you got to pump the water there, and then they use the water on their end to water. But it's because the health department says it can only go on the grass. If you get overspray on sidewalks, there's a violation. There's so many hoops to jump through when it comes to reclaimed water. But because of the droughts, the state is finally turning around and embracing the use of recycled water, because they realize that could be the window of opportunity to get the state itself out of its drought and get our aquifers replenished. That brings us to our plant. Our plant basically takes water, and you don't have to treat it to a tertiary level. You only have to treat it to a secondary level, and which is basic. It's still an advanced secondary, but we're just denitrifying the secondary and then letting it percolate into the ground on site. There's no investment of millions of dollars of infrastructure. There's no investment of purple pipe. There's no investment of pumps. It simply percolates. Mother Nature does the rest, and it filters into the aquifer and replenishes the aquifer. So now we are going to get 100% reuse. And for those that aren't in the industry, that's extremely rare. Places that have full tertiary plants sometimes can only get rid of 40% to end-use customers. The rest of it goes into the concrete riverbed and pumped out and flows into the ocean. So the fact that we are going to have 100% reuse makes it such a unique opportunity for small agencies like Roseman that could never think of getting in the recycled water game, because they couldn't afford the $1 million of infrastructure, plus they didn't want to deal with the regulatory issues as well. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of regulatory issues because of our plant. We have monitoring wells. We have to send test results to the Lahontan Regional Water Board. So it is regulated, but we are able to percolate it on site. And this is something that we're pushing. We're going to be doing our 5th presentation, hopefully soon, during state organizations to show them our plant. The Lahontan Board actually encourages us to go out and share this with up and down the state of California. It's something that we're trying to do, because the more small agencies like Roseman that can do the same with their sewer influent could be the beginning of the end to our drought situation in California.
Now, the Reclamation Plan that obviously is the apple of your eye has a lot of moving parts. Tell us about that.
Well, a reclamation plant is not just simply water in, water out. It goes through a process. It goes through a biological process. And once the water comes into the plant, it goes through different chemical additions. It goes through filtering process. It goes through, you're cleaning the water up. You're removing the solids from the water and leaving just the water, and then you're continuing to clean that. and disinfect it and to get it to a point to where you can percolate it in the ground. But a treatment plant is just like your body. It's no different. Everything has to work in sync and it all has to be in balance. Otherwise, what happens when your body's not in balance? You don't feel good. You know, you throw up. You know, you've got other issues. You get a fever. It's no different with a plant. If you've got too much chemical or not enough chemical, or if you've got the process is being held up or going through too quickly, you got a valve that maybe didn't open up or a valve that closed too soon. All these things can affect the balance of the plant, and you can get a plant upset. And you know, you hear in our meetings with all of these things that they're having to do for a startup. Yes, because what they're doing now is simply taking the plant and fine tuning it. They got to, tweak it a little here, tweak it a little there, to get everything working in sync together. And once it's all dialed in, it's like I like to say it, then it works like a clock. It'll just keep on going, and everything will be fine. And then every once in a while, operations is going to get alarms. Something's not working right. They make the adjustments, and then everything is as it should be. So it's a complicated process, but it's also a fascinating process to really get into the nuts and bolts. I started with Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts in 1979. And like most people, I didn't know anything about sewer or reclaimed water. It was just something in the ground, that you flush the toilet and it went away. But I got hired in 1979 in Carson in their maintenance department. And I didn't just look at it as a job. It fascinated me. I wanted to learn more about it. I wanted to learn every aspect of it. And to where I was able to learn about the process, learn how it's done. And eventually, I finished my career with the sanitation districts. My last 10 years, I was promoted up to the desert region, where I was in charge of the maintenance department for 2 water reclamation plants that handled about 30 million gallons of water per day. And the one in Palmdale and the one in Lancaster off the freeway at Avenue D. In addition to that, I was also in charge of maintenance for the sewer system for the entire Antelope Valley and Santa Clarita Valley. And we also had 2 billion gallon reclaimed water storage facilities, one in Lancaster, one in Palmdale, as well as extensive agricultural sites with pumping stations and a lot of infrastructure and piping and things that needed to be maintained. And I think one of my favorite things that I loved to do was in charge of the maintenance of Paiute ponds. Federal wetlands and protected bird habitat. And that's where we sent our recycled water from the Lancaster plant. And it's a wonderful place to be at and to watch nature there. And I was very happy to be a part of that for 10 years, maintaining that facility. And, then an afterthought too is I was also in charge of the fleet for the desert, which was about 130 vehicles and pieces of equipment. So I had a lot of responsibility up here, but I think it's because I took the time to really learn the industry. That not to just fix something, but to know why it's there, what the purpose is. And I think that was my biggest motivating factor for wanting to be on this board the first time I ran many years ago, was because I felt that I could offer something to this community. That I had some experience and expertise that could be of help to this community, be of help to this agency.
Well, and the association has taken note of that. I think the progress that Roseman has made, because I think they have invited you to do presentations on the plant to them, and now I understand that the California Association of Special Districts has decided to do a documentary to show to all the legislatures about recycled water, and Roseman, I understand, is going to be featured.
Yes, this is going to be taking place next week, October 11th. We will be having a documentary that will be put together by the CSDA, and they've asked me to be the board member to represent the RCSD in this documentary on our treatment plant. And it's really going to get exposure. It's going to get exposure to the people that matter, and that is our state legislature. They'll see this documentary, they'll see Roseman and our plant and our facility, and they will see the potential for being able to include small agencies all up and down the state. And I feel it's going to be, if we can reuse all of our water in this state, we won't have a drought. We might have droughts, but we won't have water issues.
Yeah.
Our aquifers will be full.
Mm-hmm. Well, and now could a plant like this be built all over the state in different places?
Oh, absolutely. If you are an agency right now collecting sewage, there's only one way they're doing it. If they're not treating it, they have to have a place for the sewage to go to from the homes. And it's going to go to a primitive plant, which is going to have a headworks, and then it's going to be pumped into evaporation ponds, where they basically just put the flow in there and let it sit there and evaporate, and then they'll remove the sludge that's left over after the evaporation. So that's the only way that they can do it. And they're all doing it that way if they don't already have a treatment plant built. But all up and down the state, there's no reason why they cannot build the same plant that we've got, take the same influent flow, treat it to a secondary level, and instead of putting it out to evaporate, which is doing nobody any good, and then percolate it, it will heal their aquifers. It'll raise the water tables everywhere they do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be good for the farmers, because it'll raise the water tables for them as well, so they can pump and grow more crops. Mm-hmm. So this is new water that the potential is there. And that's what I'm excited about this documentary, is that it could actually really change some minds and get people on board to really push this up and down the state.
Mm-hmm. And California is a conservative place, although people don't usually think of it that way outside the state. They think it's all movie business, but at the heart of it is agricultural and very conservative viewpoint. And if the conservative people can take notice of this operation, you're right, it could do a tremendous amount of good.
Well, and you're right, John. I think the biggest thing that people are going to look at is that just because you bring sewer flow into an evaporation pond system, that's still not cheap to run.
Right.
It costs money. You have to maintain those ponds. You have to clean those ponds. You have to dispose of the sludge that's in there as well from evaporation. You have to purchase land and build ponds. The reason that the Roseman Community Service District we had 17 evaporation ponds here. Mm-hmm. And the reason we built a treatment plant to begin with is that we were running out of room in our ponds because the community was growing. So we were going to have to go out and purchase land, and we were going to have to build 2 or 3 more ponds, and each pond was going to be $2 or $3 million a piece to build. So it was like, you know, do we just keep buying land? How many ponds do you have to have? 30 ponds, 40 ponds? At some point, you've got to realize that it's not cost effective to do it that way. And I think the biggest reason a lot of people hold back on building a recycled water plant is because building the plant is easy. Building the infrastructure to deliver the water off-site somewhere is what keeps, they just don't have it. You know, we didn't have the money. We wish we did, but you know, to run purple pipe, you know, for 2 or 3 miles to a ball field or things of that nature, it's expensive. But this is a game changer where now these people can go in and they can actually, you know, build their plant, percolate it on site, and then reap all the benefits of the reclaimed water once it hits their aquifer.
And Kennedy Jenks, a very well-known engineering firm, helped Rcsd put this together. So
yes, they designed the facility, and along with the working hand in hand with the Lahontan Regional Water Board, came up with this concept of something that's never been done before.
And Keith Dias, a Roseman resident, is on the Lahontan board.
Yes, he is.
And has been for many years.
Many years, and Keith is a great director on the Lahontan board and the AVEC board, and he's also a great friend.
Yeah.
And he's a great friend to this community.
Yeah.
And very passionate about the community, and he's probably, next to me, probably just as excited about this plant and the success of this plant as well.
That's good. And the water bank, now, another subject. Years ago, you invested some, $6 million, I think, in that bank.
Correct.
And where is that project? Where is it?
Well, the bank is still there, and the bank is we're still a member of it, and we still have our investment, and we still have water that we put in there that's banked, that's ours, that we can get if we need it. And it is still being marketed, and still taking in water from other people. We have a new water bank in the Antelope Valley, which is a high desert water bank that is being financed by Metropolitan Water District and managed by AVEC. And, you know, when it comes to water banks, the more the merrier, because it's good for the valley. Because see, the beauty of a water bank is that if somebody comes in and puts in 10,000 acre feet of water, okay, and they pay for the water, they have it put in the water bank, and it's theirs to pump out later on. It's their water credits.
Yeah.
But because of the water bank and the adjudication, they have to leave behind 10%. So if anybody that uses the water bank, they got to leave 10% of that water behind, which stays here and benefits this valley and this community and our aquifers. So that's the nice thing about it. Metropolitan Water District is going to be putting in 70,000 acre feet of water from the aqueduct. They'll be leaving 7,000 acre feet of water behind every year as they pull the water out. So every single year that they put in the 70,000, the aquifer is going to gain 7,000 acre feet of water. And that's why it's a win-win. And water banks, the more we can have, the better it is for this valley.
Well, that's good to hear. And I appreciate the chance to talk to you today before the elections coming up. And The agency, Roseman Community Services District, has never had a year where the water didn't flow. The boards, all the time I have watched it for the last 30-some years, the people have been very caring people, and
Yes.
tried to learn as much as they possibly could and make the right decisions and so on and so forth. And I wish you well on the election.
Thank you.
As I said, it's always takes a courageous person to run for public election, because there's a lot of new people in Roseman, a lot of people moving in. I was just down on Orchard and 35th Street, and there's brand new homes going there, and a huge, I don't know how many, I'm gonna have to figure out how many homes they're gonna put in there, but they're sold over 100 new homes, and they're all in and occupied. People are there, so
Correct.
Roseman's gonna grow.
And I want to add something on new homes. Roseman is always, the RCSD has cared about our current customers, people that are already living here. Your needs are taken care of.
Yeah.
The new homes that John just mentioned, yes, they come in here. And, part of our responsible growth plan is that before they build, they got to go find their own water. They got to go negotiate their own water rights to supply water for those homes. We don't take it away from the supplies of the current residents. So any new home that's built here, they've had to go out and find their own water in perpetuity. So that way we can continue to supply water to them. So that's how we look at new homes coming in. So when new homes come in, they're fully self-sufficient and not taking away from the community's resources that we already have. And, I just want to add, John, when you talk about, being courageous to run and things of that nature, my goal and my desire to be on this board is real simple. I just want to serve the community. It's always been my driving force from the day that I first sat down and was sworn into office, is to what can I do for this community, and how can I benefit the people of this community. I've never had an agenda. My goal is to take my expertise, my background, and to put it to good use to protect the community's assets, to protect our infrastructure, to keep this agency going strong. This agency was started back in the early 60s by gentlemen like Bobby Maley and Harold Retsky and some real old pioneers that started this agency. Today, I'm simply carrying on their legacy. I'm carrying the torch that they lit, and the agency has grown and changed a lot over the years. And there'll come a day when I won't be on this board anymore, and there'll be new people that will be here. And I am confident that they will be here for the same reason, to serve and do what's best for the community and to protect the community's assets and protect the community's interest.
Well, thank you again very much for the interview, and the Roseman News always appreciates hearing it the way it really is. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.